Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community and neighborhoods. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, we're moving into March.
Yes, we are.
It's crazy, so quick, right?
It is.
And we have a feel-good story today.
Oh, good.
I have an old friend joining me. I've known Jim Pilkauskas for just about 10 years, and his family, his 3 boys, Crystal, his wife, and every once in a while over the years, we touch base, and, about real estate stuff and this and that, and I actually attended Jim's retirement party a couple of years ago. How many years ago, Jim, was that?
2021.
Oh, my goodness. Was that was during COVID?
It was.
Right. So it's hard to say, a lot of people for 10 years or 10 plus years. And Jim, you've tell me a little bit about your background, how we met, what you did prior to that, and just kind of bring us up to date, because we have a lot to talk about an organization you have started, which I think is going to touch the heart of a lot of people, and it's called Remnant Young Men's Group.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, Bill. First, I appreciate you just giving me the opportunity to come here. And as you already mentioned, we've got some history.
Yeah.
And we came here in 2015. We had come up from Fort Benning, Georgia.
Right.
I was at about 26 years at that point in my Army career.
Yeah.
So if you remember, I didn't want to rent anymore. I knew we were probably this is going to be where we were going to,
retire.
Correct. And that was going to be it. We wanted to plant some roots and not have to move the boys anymore. So we wanted a place to buy of our own. And interestingly enough, if you remember, I wanted to be out in the country somewhere.
I remember.
I wanted 10 acres and,
I remember.
And chickens and pigs and all sorts of stuff. And your advice, which was very wise, and you showed a lot of discernment, obviously, was that if there's any chance that we may move, which I still didn't know for sure, probably better stick somewhere in the Pines. And we bought the house right there in Southern Pines. Yep. And interestingly enough, it ended up being a perfect location for what we're going to talk about here. A few years later, the ministry that I started. It's a perfect location for it.
Right.
So in 21, I retired, and that was 30 years in the Army.
Yes.
And I had a typical infantry guy career. I was enlisted for many years and became an officer after about 10 years enlisted time. And served in all, sorts of infantry units, 82nd, 101st. Eventually, I found myself in the Ranger Regiment, went special operations, and spent about the last 10 or 12 years in the special operations community. And so I finished up here at Fort Bragg, and it was about the same year, maybe a year later. The boys, again, you mentioned, Crystal, my wife of 20 years, Quinn, Cole, and Landon are my 3 teenage sons. We didn't really know where they were going to go to school. Somehow, indirectly, I ran into Dwight Creech, who's the principal over at Calvary Christian School. Mm-hmm. Long story short, the boys started attending that school. Crystal and I started attending the church with the boys. And one of the ministries they have over there is called Young People. And every Thursday evening, kids of all ages, from 6 up, come, and it's just a safe place where they play, whether it's volleyball, dodgeball, kickball. They just get together. It's supervised. You have adult, chaperones. Yep. And after about an hour or so, they'll move into the chapel. They'll sing some hymns, and then there will be a devotional. So that's the young people's ministry happens every Thursday night over at Calvary.
And that's boys and girls.
It is. It is. That's open to every, and not, you don't have to be a member of the school. That's open to the entire community. Any kid's welcome. So one Thursday night, well, I don't even know what night. Well, it was probably a Thursday night, actually, because I think the weather was foul. And AJ probably remembers this story better than I do, how it led to them coming to our house. But a group of young men show up at the house, and they're hanging out with R3. Crystal and I are inside, and I think eventually the weather turned foul. They come inside. We had a fire, and really, Crystal's the one that kind of gave me the nudge, and she said, "Hey, why don't you do a devotional?"
Right.
We had already been doing some, family Bible studies, so took advantage of the opportunity. We did a devotional, and really, Bill, I say that it was kind of planted on my lap. I had no intention of having any kind of a ministry. I wasn't even thinking about it at the time. But I don't think it was a coincidence. My worldview as a Christian, I think, God is very strategic, and I think he just brought certain people into a certain, place in my life at a certain time for a reason. Yeah. And it just evolved to where every week a group of young men would come over to the house, and typical night would be we would do some kind of a physical event, usually a ruck march, something somewhat military training type stuff. And there's a reason why I do that, and I'll be happy to explain that. But we'll do some kind of a physical event, and then we'll have a devotional. Often it's down at Reservoir Park on the dock or back in my yard by the fire.
Right.
And then Crystal lays out a bunch of food. We feed everybody. They hang out. Some leave at 8. Some are there till 10, depending on, what's happening the next day.
Yeah.
And we've been doing it now for over 3 years.
Yeah. One of my first impressions about you and Crystal and your family, and I'm going back now about a decade, was how tightly knit you guys were, all of you, and how important family was, and getting the right homestead, and creating the best environment for your boys. And Crystal, in her own quiet way, she has a radar detector on her that she can scan 200 yards. Her peripheral vision is unbelievable, and she's a very impressive lady.
She is.
And I just got, and about the pride that you had in your sons and your boys, so it begs me the question, what was it about your relationship with your father that made you such a devoted father and has sort of evolved into a situation where you're extending your arms to a group of young men? I don't know what the age group is. Was that influence from your upbringing? I mean, where were those seeds sown?
That's a good question, Bill. Often we see men react a certain way, and usually it's in direct opposition to what they experienced. Right? They did not have a father at home, or he was either physically or mentally absent. Right. Or a young man was raised by his mother. Right. And what does he want to do? He wants to do the exact opposite. Right. That wasn't really the case. I mean, my parents divorced when I was very young. Yeah. But Dad was still in my life. I honestly, Bill, I don't even know that. I think it was the timing, and I think it happened when it did, because it was when I was ready to really start to focus on other people. Had it happened 10 years prior, I don't know that it would have, even a seed would have been planted. I don't know that anything would have happened. I really, so it's not necessarily something that was building all the way up from my relationship with my father until 2022. You know what I mean?
Then it may be something with your wife.
Crystal is, I'm pretty traditional.
Yep.
I believe I'm the head of the household, but she's definitely the neck. And Crystal has a way of turning my head to focus exactly where it needs to be at the right time and place. Right. I mean, that's how she's wired. Right. You're right. And women can multitask. Yep. We don't do that. We focus on one thing and then we move to the next. Yep. She, like you said, she's got that peripheral vision. Oh. And she saw an opportunity.
She's like an MRI machine. She's like an MRI machine.
Always scanning for opportunity. Yep. I think a lot of it too, Bill, is because I ask that all the time. What is it about this that it's, you know how it is, like if you're an introvert, certain interactions can be very draining, right? And they can be very difficult for you. And I'm somewhat of an introvert. But every Monday night when I get together with these guys, and sometimes we might have up to 30 young men, and from young can be anywhere from 12 to, fathers in their 30s. It really depends. It's not used to be high school was the demographic I was targeting.
Yeah.
But now it just runs the gamut from 11 to, maybe early 30s, some of the fathers. And no matter how tired, no matter how long a day that Monday is, when we meet, I'm just charged. And it's very fulfilling. It's something I'm extremely passionate about. And maybe it's because of what I think a lot of guys experience, and this is kind of a thing that I think a lot of vets experience in particular, is you lose that camaraderie. Yeah. There's no more cohesiveness. There's no more sense of mission. And I think this gives me a sense of mission, and this gives me fulfillment.
Right. You retired in 21.
I did.
What did you do? Where did you go from there?
We stayed here. I actually took off the uniform and worked in the same building for about a year.
Okay.
Same building, civilian clothes, just a slightly different capacity. And I've moved around a few times. I've had a few different jobs as a contractor,
right,
as a government civilian,
right,
and now I'm back to actually do business development for a company.
Okay.
So it's a new world for me.
So you are, to me, you are now perceived, I think, as a principled role model for a lot of young men. You started the Remnant Young Men's Group as a nonprofit.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about the breakdown of the type of young men that you have. Where do they come from? Are they single-parent families? Are they military families? Are they? What's the makeup?
It really runs the gamut, Bill. And so we're here now in almost March of 2025. I just became a 501c3.
Right.
February of this year, right? So it's only been a month. I became an LLC at the end of 24.
Right.
And to back up just a little bit, as we started to grow, I realized we can continue to do exactly what we're doing, and we've actually had a lot of the parents offer to help. But Crystal and my answer has always been, hey, this is our ministry. We're blessed. We're able to do it. We want to continue to do it. I don't need your help. If you want to bring a case of water, that's fine. As you can imagine, there's a lot of resources that go into having 25, 30 some young men at your house every night.
With appetites.
Right, exactly. Right. That's a whole separate grocery bill every Saturday.
And we're going to speak to a couple of those young men in the second set. But you've created something that obviously needs support to grow. And but in a nutshell, what would you say the mission statement of the organization is?
I think, and back to your question, Bill, about the demographic, it runs the gamut.
Yeah.
We have, I've had mothers reach out to me and say, hey, look, I am about one more bad decision before I send my son off to a boarding school.
Right.
Or I'm just having a struggle. Either dad's not in the picture or dad's deployed. There's, a lot of different backgrounds. Or dad is in the picture and they have a phenomenal relationship. But you know how it is. Sometimes you can say something till you're blue in the face.
Uh-huh.
As soon as they hear it from another man that they respect,
they'll listen.
It can resonate. Right.
Exactly.
So they run the gamut. They're anywhere from 11 to 18, 19, 20, and then some of the fathers. I would say, in a nutshell, the vision statement, the mission statement is: I really want to help develop young men into providers, protectors, and servant leaders, godly young men.
Okay. I remember growing up how many times my father used to discipline me, and I would roll my eyes at him because I thought I knew better. If I heard the same comment from a relative or another man, I would listen. It's funny. Sometimes parents lose their effect in what they communicate, but kids listen. They take it all in, and you may be that for a bunch of young men. We're going to come back in the second set. We're talking about the Remnant Young Men's Group. It's out of Southern Pines. Jim Pilkauskas is our guest, and we have two young men with us who we're going to speak to in the second set about their experiences with it and how they got involved. This is All Things Moore County. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our second set of All Things Moore County. We are speaking about the Remnant Young Men's Group in Southern Pines, and we spent the first set really talking with you, Jim, and we're going to segue and talk with two gentlemen you brought in with you. But before we do, I don't know that you got everything out you wanted to say in that first set about what the Remnant Group, is it affiliated with anything other than your own organization?
Right, Bill. Yeah, I want to make sure that people are not out there thinking, sounds great for my son, I wish we went to a certain church or a certain school.
Okay.
And that's not the case.
Okay.
Is it a Christian organization? Yes. Can they show up if they're not a Christian? Absolutely, right? Everybody's welcome.
Okay.
It's a young men's group, obviously, right? So that's my target.
It's an
men.
independent, right?
It's independent. We're a nonprofit. And it doesn't matter where they go to church. If they do not go to church, where they go to school, they're all welcome.
Okay.
So
There's an element to what you're doing that reminds me of the that movie, Pay It Forward. Do you remember?
I do.
That movie?
I do.
Maybe it's 20 years old now. And it's something that one generation passes to the next. And there's a lot of that in Moore County in many different, with different expressions. You were, I'm glad you brought these two young gentlemen with you. A.J. Ingram is 17. He's a senior at the Calvary Christian School.
Yes, sir.
And Charlie Howarth, I'm sorry.
Howarth?
Howarth, I'm
Sir.
sorry. You're a 10th grader. You're just a big kid for your age.
Yes, sir.
I mean, oh my God, you look like you're a basketball player. Are you?
No, I don't do any sports.
You don't do any sports?
No, sir.
Wow, you look like you could be a tight end. You could be the center on a basketball team. But there's 2 years difference between the two of you. I'll start with the seniority first. So, AJ, how did you meet Jim, and how did you get involved in the group? And by the way, I will tell people, if your last name is familiar, you come from a family of well-known plumbing contractors in Moore County, the Ingram.
Yes, sir. Wow. Okay. So I got affiliated with the Pilkauskas family because they started attending our church
Right.
shortly after they came to North Carolina.
You're so well spoken, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
he needs to be the mayor.
Or maybe going to be. Okay, go ahead.
Maybe one day. And I really clicked with their son Landon.
Yep.
We're the same age. We're about 16 days apart, our birthdays, and I started going over to their house on Sunday afternoons, so I got really well acquainted with the family. They basically adopted me as one of their sons, almost.
Right.
Took me in. As the years progressed, I formed a better relationship with the older boys, Quinn and Cole,
Sure.
and oh man, it has been an adventure.
Yeah.
We've done so much together. Bike rides, rucks, runs, everything. It's been an awesome adventure. The way I kind of started coming to, well, it originally started out as Bible boot camp, now the Remnant Young Men's Group.
Yep.
I actually wasn't there for the first kind of meeting. The group of young men that went that first night came to my house. I was working out in my garage. I think I was 13 maybe.
Okay.
And they showed up and it was dark and I was just like, man, who's pulling in my driveway? And they're like, oh, dude, we had this awesome time at the PK's house tonight. It was awesome. And I was just like, oh, that sounds like fun. They're like, oh, we're doing it next week. You want to come? I was like, for sure.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of my story and how I got acquainted with them.
So you're a senior. Do you have a summertime job? Do you work with in your family business?
I do. I really enjoy working on classic cars. Is my big thing.
Okay.
Do a lot of that and just mechanic work in general.
Okay.
Throughout the school year and the summer, I work down at our school as a janitor, and then do some background work with my dad as he needs me in the plumbing business.
You strike me as an enterprising young man. Is that, Jim?
He
is
is.
that? Yeah,
That's why we keep him around.
I think so. And I have a feeling that you're also a good public relations conduit for the group. In terms that you seem to know people, you have your own little network set up.
Yeah, know a good bit of people around the area. My family's very large, so
Yeah.
I get I know a person or two.
What do you get a feeling of solidarity from being in the group? Is there a sense of community is there a void that it fills? What do you get out of it?
Absolutely. Every Monday, I look forward when I wake up in the morning to coming and hanging out and just talking with all the guys. Mr. Pilkauskas always brings a wonderful message that night that you can always take something from it, if not a few things.
Right.
It is honestly the best way to start out my week. It's almost like a fresh start. You come and you just have this awesome community of young men that are all striving to do the same thing, which is to one day be able to protect, provide, and serve and lead their families.
Right.
And just for the common goal to become strong, capable, godly young men.
Wow. I didn't use those words when I was your age, ever. I didn't even think those words. Jim, did you?
No, I did not.
Oh, my goodness. I was so wrapped up in other things that I thought were more important. So I'll make a statement, and you tell me if it's true. The guys that are in the group with you, you guys all have or want to have the right formulas to be successful spiritually, successful perhaps materially, and successful in a relationship type setting.
Absolutely.
Is that right? And everyone in the group shares that. They want to better themselves.
That's exactly right.
That's not true of every kid that's a senior or junior in high school these days.
No, sir.
They're not found, or they're not. They don't have the sense of urgency.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you guys have it? Why do you think?
I would say, just with, like I said, mentioned earlier, the messages that Mr. Pilkauskas brings have absolutely helped form our mindset.
Right.
To be focused, like you said, on bettering ourselves.
Yeah.
And just striving to be better in every way that we can be.
I see people all the time that are adults, and in the back of my mind, I see some people and I say they have the right formulas.
Mm-hmm.
I see other adults and I go to myself, I don't know if they have the right formulas. If you don't get them at the right age and you don't get to practice them, they don't become second nature. And it's admirable that you guys are all on that same vein of thought.
Mm-hmm.
I want to switch gears because I don't want to keep the spotlight just on you. I want to go over to Charlie, and you pronounce your last name for me again?
Howarth?
Howarth. You're a sophomore.
Yes, sir.
You're 2 years younger than AJ?
I think 1 year.
1 year.
1 year.
You've been listening to him speak. How did you get hooked up with Jim, and or you call him Mr. Pilkauskas?
Mr. Jim.
Mr. Jim,
yeah.
okay.
So I was about 12 years old. I wasn't really fit. I wasn't into working out. I was just kind of, I went to the same church as all of these guys did for a little bit.
Okay.
So I don't know if we joined first or if they joined first, or which one of us, me or Mr. Jim, got there.
Okay.
But eventually, I'm pretty sure him and my dad got acquainted, and
Yeah.
my dad is a doctor.
Okay.
So I guess he might have hurt himself. So he came over, and my dad was checking him out. I guess I walked through. I kind of said hi, and he invited me to come to boot camp. And eventually, a few days later, I didn't want to go. I have no interest in working out, and my dad forced me. So the first day I went,
You had no interest in work. You look
None.
like, wow, you look like you do work out.
I'm going
Okay.
to show you pictures of Charlie from a few years ago, Bill.
Is
Quite
that
the
right?
transformation.
Pretty significant transformation.
Okay.
Absolutely.
so eventually, let me get my train of thought back.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it to be a workout. I didn't know it was a boot camp. So the first day I went, it was a pool party. It was a special occasion. It was a special occasion at somebody else's house.
Okay.
So I had a good time. Everyone there was nice to me. Like nobody was picking on me for anything.
Okay.
And I decided I wanted to come back the next week. Except this time it was at a different location. And then we get there, and all of a sudden we're running, and I was in the back, and I was like, so.
Your body was screaming at you. What are
it
you
was
doing to
screaming
me?
at Yeah. But eventually, after it was over, I know like working out while you're working out is terrible, but then after it's satisfying.
Right.
And everyone there was like pushing me to keep going, telling me that I was going to be able to do it. And like he was saying, Landon, I consider him one of my best friends now. And
Okay.
he took me in. We started hanging out a lot. And, you know, like he was saying, bike rides, rucks, all that. And then Quinn and Cole, they've been in my life a lot more now. Cole is now with my sister. And so I've just gotten to know them a whole lot more closely. Everyone else there, AJ's influenced me a lot in my life, and
I think
everyone else-
AJ influences a lot of people.
Oh yeah,
I just a
He
guess. Wild guess. Okay.
There's no minimum requirement to be a leader.
Right.
Yeah.
No age requirement.
Right. Well, you I like your attitude. You've come full circle in the last couple of years, huh?
yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know what the before pictures look like, but that's why I said, are you a tight end or are you a center on a basketball team? So it works. The camaraderie that you have, how important is it to you?
It's really important. If you don't have camaraderie, right? We do a lot of our workouts as a group, and everyone there is lifting each other up. If there's nobody lifting each other up, it's a lot harder
Yeah.
to do it. I probably wouldn't have stayed if everyone wasn't lifting me up like they did.
You know, one of the New Year's resolutions we always make in our business is this, and I'm quite a few years older than you guys, is we always try to minimize the amount of toxic people we let into our circle, right? And it comes, and every once in a while we do it well, and every once in a while we don't. But you're as good as the people you surround yourself with, and I get the feeling that you feel like you're in good company, and you all make each other better.
Yeah. I used to not be around really good influences, but
Right.
they just lifted me up and brought me to a whole nother level.
Okay. Both of you guys are really well spoken. You guys just knocked it out of the park. We're going to come back in the third set. We're going to go back and talk a little bit to Jim about some of the specific things that you're doing in the Remnant Young Men's Group, and how people can get involved or reach out to you. And your contributions were off the charts great, both of you.
Bill, thank you very much for having us.
I'm voting for him,
Thank you.
for AJ. Okay.
The
This
mayor,
is-
the mayor's
yeah.
got some competition.
Oh, look at that smile. All Things Moore County. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our third set of All Things Moore County, talking about all about the Remnant Young Men's Group. Jim, thank you for bringing these two ambassadors with
Yes,
you.
sir.
I mean,
Very well spoken.
Oh my gosh, very well spoken. Explain the name, just Remnant, to me.
So I want to say, Bill, it's in the Bible, probably about 80 sometimes, and essentially it's a group that when all others have compromised the standard, the truth, the remnant it's almost like God's reserve or quick reaction force. It's a small element that always stands for the truth,
Okay.
and that's what I want them to be all about.
In this world of hyped up social media, it's really hard to have young men living in a principled focus without getting influenced by a lot of the external noise. Huh?
Absolutely, it is.
It's crazy in a way, isn't it?
I think that's our natural tendency, right? To go the way of the world. It's gravity.
Yeah.
You have to have some kind of counteracting force.
Right.
And that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
To be for them.
Yeah. so they can stand up to whatever the world is going to throw their way.
That's right.
Some people wake up in the morning and they decide how they feel based on the weather, as
That's
opposed
right.
to just, hey, what the weather is the weather. I'm still going to be highly focused and principled in what I do, whether it's raining or whether it's sunny.
Yep.
Walk me through a typical night when you get a group. You've got 15. And you week once a week, is that?
We do every Monday night.
Okay.
6:00.
Okay.
And like I said, it's interesting, Bill, because for the longest time, we never seemed to cap 10 or 12, or never seemed to go over 10 or 12 guys. Okay. We built an addition out in the backyard, to a deck, a covered porch, so we can have more meeting space. The very next week, that was maxed out. So I think it's a, build it and they will come kind of thing. So now we're looking at potentially finding some land, maybe an outdoor building. Yeah. We need more space, which is a good problem to have. Yeah. So they'll come at around 6:00, anywhere from 12 to sometimes close to 30 young men with fathers. And I'll give them a brief, let them know what we're going to do. They usually know ahead of time. We have a chat group on Signal. I send out the 5 Ws every week. And let's just say a ruck night. They'll show up. Everybody will kind of mingle a little bit. We'll do some intros. If there's new guys, we'll go out the backyard. Yep. I'll give them a briefing and make sure everybody understands. It's just like a military operation, right? Here's the route. Here's the communication plan. Here's the medical plan, emergency plan. What are your questions? And then we step off. We'll do maybe a 4 or 5 mile ruck down to Reservoir Park, come back to the house. Yep. And sometimes I'll have somebody head back a little early and have a bonfire, start the fire in the backyard. Yeah. We'll sit down and I'll do a devotional. Usually the devotional is anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. And then we'll head inside and Crystal has all the food laid out. There's always some kind of a physical aspect, Bill, because I think life's hard enough. They can't be coddled. They can't be soft. If they're not getting it from somewhere, you know what I mean? They have to get that from somewhere. They have to get the ability to challenge themselves, to find out, do I have what it takes? Am I resilient? Am I mentally tough? Spiritually tough? And it also really helps when you have a group of guys that maybe don't know each other. Right. It helps them, it builds cohesion very quickly. And that's why we do some kind of a physical event, trail runs, rucks, carry weight, you name it, some kind of team building event. There's usually a team building and a leadership aspect linked to every event.
So since you set your nonprofit in January.
Yes, sir.
How do you fundraise? Where do the funds come from at this point? Is this you're relying on the parents of some of the kids? How are you getting the word out, and how can we help you?
My model, Bill, and I struggled with this. What I didn't want to do is, and again, if we wanted to expand it and do some of the classes and get some of the resources that I would need to do what I want to do, I was going to need help beyond what Crystal and I can provide. What I don't want to do is have families that have been participating for 3 years say, guess what, starting this week, there's going to be a fee. So I don't want to charge the families.
I understand.
That's why I was hoping I can find maybe local churches or whoever in the community that saw the value in what we're doing and is willing to support. We do have the GoFundMe page that I stood up. I'm not a fundraiser. I'm not a website guy. I have a full-time job. Right. So I'm trying to piecemeal all this together right now on my own. I have reached out to different churches. I've reached out to different businesses. Here's who I am. Here's what I do. Here's some pictures. Here's our website. Yeah. If you're interested in supporting, please do. And that's where we're at right now.
Okay. And I can tell you from my business, it takes a consistent message. You can't do it haphazardly. It's got to be consistent so that it becomes part of someone's, consciousness.
Gotcha.
And it takes time. But you have a link on your website, which we'll post on the podcast if people want to go to donate. And I would like to talk to you about that because I think what you're doing is great. And, I guess the possibility of leasing some land may be a great intermediary until you can grow.
Okay.
And I have some people that I should be able to introduce you to in that regard.
Great.
But this is organic, right? This has to grow slowly so the roots are deep.
Correct.
And not, you don't want to grab onto more than you can handle at one time, right?
You're right.
Do you have any sponsors at this point? Are you starting that effort?
I'm starting that effort right now.
What would you
Yeah.
require, or do you know yet? Have you formulated a plan for what you would want to find in a sponsor?
Obviously, I want somebody that shares the same values,
Okay.
right, and that is truly behind what we're doing.
Okay.
Money's the same color. I understand that, but to me, it's important that it's coming from the right sources.
Exactly.
As well, right.
Exactly.
It's about the principles and maintaining our integrity. Coleman's Creek Range Complex, Bill. I don't know if you're familiar with them out near Ellerby. Ellerby, out near Ellerby, correct.
Yeah.
I've been out there a handful of times.
Yeah.
I reached out to them. I was reaching out to places that had land,
Yes.
that had facilities that we might be able to use.
Yes.
And actually, they, interestingly enough, were just talking about how do we do something very similar where we start giving back to the community and focusing on developing young men. And it's not, even though it's a range complex, and I think it's important that young men know how to, if you have to feed your family and God forbid we can't go to the grocery store, wouldn't it be great to know how to hunt? Basic rifle marksmanship, how to go out and do these things safely. But what they thought was, well, we want to go beyond that. We have land. We can teach them how to navigate, how to build a fire, how to build a shelter, how to survive in the woods. And all this does is just build confidence, right? But how to tie a tie, how to do a resume, maybe do a mock job interview. You know what I mean? There's so many things that these things don't just happen. It has to be developed and taught. And we, at our age, right, we kind of assume some of this away. We take it for granted.
Yeah.
Somebody had to teach us.
They don't teach that in school.
They don't.
Right.
They don't. So there's other folks out there, I think, that can see the value and that want to support and want to help. I need to be able to give them the mechanism to do that, and that's what I'm trying to get smarter on right now.
I have some people in social media who may be able to help.
Okay.
Because I get that it's challenging. When you get to guys our age, and I'm talking to the boys, we're not in our wheelhouse like we were 30 years ago. It's like, what? Well, we have to get somebody who is pretty adroit with social media and getting a presence out there, because that will really ring the bell.
That's right.
And it grows. Slow growth is better than quick growth. And I think you two young men are going to be influencers. It's just my take. For maybe for different reasons. I mean, you both have great personalities, a little bit different, your dispositions, but both completely acceptable, right? And you're both enrolled, I can tell, right? We're in a wishful thinking kind of way, looking down the road 2-3 years from now. Tell me where you think you'd like to be, because this is something that obviously is going to grow because there's a need for it.
Honestly, Bill, if I would love for this to be my day job, because instead of just meeting Monday night, I think we can have summer camps. We can have week-long retreats. This could become a full-time job. Right now, I do have some very talented. There's a lot of talent, obviously, in Moore County,
Yeah,
right? And there's a lot of folks from the military community that want to come and help and teach.
Yeah.
But again, it's everybody just trying to volunteer their time. It would be amazing if this became a full-time job, and I can actually have a staff of dedicated instructors and trainers. They'd be very well vetted. I'm very particular about who is really engaging with these guys. And they have to, it has to be like-minded guys that are in it for the right reason. But that would be my goal, 3 to 5 years from now, if this could be the job, the full-time job, and maybe something that becomes a family business. I'm not going to do it forever, but my legacy would be that it continues on, whether I'm in the picture or not, and these guys are focused on the next generation. And a lot of it is what we do. Like I said, it's about leadership. It's not about me demonstrating. It's about me showing them how to teach younger men.
I can envision you getting different speakers from Moore County, from different walks of life, who could come in maybe on a Monday evening and speak to the young men about whatever it is their discipline is.
Absolutely.
As long as it's consistent with the overall philosophy.
Right.
And that's a great way to make people aware.
You're right.
And I can give you a bunch of suggestions on that. I would love to do that, actually.
I'd appreciate that, Bill.
So you have the beginnings of a website. People can go to it.
I do.
It's in its infancy. But
is.
I have a feeling it's going to grow, and we're going to get you deep into social media, and it's going to drive you crazy. Look at his face. He's like, "Oh, I'm not looking forward to this part of it." he Mr. Jim, right? He is like me. We're old-fashioned. He's organic. He wants the nuts and the bolts to concentrate on, not the all the PR and all
Exactly.
that. He wants that to take care of itself, but it will. I think it will. I'm going to close with what is the most fulfilling part of this for you?
Seeing the change in some of these young men, and all of the young men,
Yeah.
honestly, Bill. Some of the notes I get from mothers.
Yep.
My son wouldn't wake up before 9 o'clock 2 weeks ago. Now he's up at 5:30, reading the Bible, working out, eating right. We focus on everything.
Yeah.
All the pillars.
Yeah.
And just getting to see that come to fruition, see the fruits of it, it makes it all worth it.
Jim, I'm glad it's you doing this. I can certainly vouch for you, your family, and your character, and your beliefs. And that's what happens when you get to know someone over a decade, right? You get to see the real person, not just people who are out there patting you on the back and stuffing a cigar in your mouth, right? That's not Jim. AJ, you were great to come in and talk. Charlie, you were too. And look at him. He's smiling. You're not nervous. You're cool. Everything is good.
Definitely less stressful than I thought it was going to be.
So you want to do it again?
Sure.
Okay, you guys, I thought you did great. Jim, it was a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Bill.
The Remnant Young Men's Group, this is an organization that's going to grow. There's a need for it. Young men in their age group need to have disciplined formats in their lives outside of school. Otherwise, the alternative is you get in trouble. And we don't want that, right?
No, sir.
He is going to be mayor. I can just tell his demeanor. This is All Things Moore County. Thanks, guys. This is All Things Moore County. Have a great week.